Hey, this is Michael Sedini from Eagle Imports and Walk the Talk America.
Hey guys, this is Julie Golub with Team Smith & Wesson, and you're listening to the Armed Citizen Podcast.
From the Ghost Tactical Productions Studio, welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast. And now your host, Trey Miller.
Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast. I am your host, Trey Miller with Ghost Tactical Productions. And today's going to be a pretty special edition of the Armed Citizen. It's going to be the first episode of our Operation Training Day. It's a project that we here at Ghost Tactical Productions have started for the next year, that we're going to try to train with the best trainers in the world and bring an honest, unbiased review of all the training sessions out to the general public. There are people out there, obviously, that are looking to train or interested in training but may not know who to go to, what's a good class to take, and all of that. So we are pairing up with Michael Woodland over at MW Tactical. We brought him in on the project because he is, one, a good friend of mine, but he enjoys training as well. So we're going to spend the next year trying to get to as many training classes as we can and bring those to you guys. And the first mission was Tactical Response with James Jaeger over in Tennessee. And we took this class the past weekend, and it was really eye-opening because I think a lot of you that know me know that I have not always been the biggest fan of James and some of the things he says or does on YouTube. I had him on my Tactical Tuesday show a few months back, and we had a discussion. As you guys know, I'm not afraid to mix words, and I kind of basically told him that I really didn't like a lot of things he said or did, and not in a cruel way. We were just having a discussion, and he really kind of just called me out and challenged me. He said, "You may not like me, but have you ever trained with me?" And of course, I hadn't trained with him before, and he says, "Come on and train with me, and then kind of judge me." So the last couple of months, we've gone back and forth, and decided to take his class on December 1st and 2nd, and it was called Fighting Pistol. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk a little bit about other projects we've got going on, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be a warrior. So I got ready to go, got everything packed up, and headed out on Friday to head to Camden, Tennessee, where Tactical Response is located. I was in some contact with a company out of Memphis called Venture Gear Tactical that do Hearing Pro and Eye Pro and different stuff for the shooting world. Set up a meeting for Friday afternoon on my way through Memphis to Camden, and got a chance to spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours with Andy and Larry. And they were great guys. We had a great talk, and we got to see some really cool products and talked about their product line and all of that, and where they're wanting to do and where they're wanting to go with their product line. And they were very gracious enough to send me a large box of sample stuff on my way with me. And I utilized several pieces of it during the training. I utilized their electronic hearing pro the whole weekend, and I used several different styles of eye protection, and I kind of settled in on one or two that I really, really enjoyed. But I really enjoyed their product, and so we'll talk a little bit more later about Venture Gear Tactical. But as I made my way to Camden, I was really excited about training with Jaeger. Obviously, regardless of what you may think about him on YouTube and all of that stuff, he is a world-renowned trainer. His reputation is that of a world-class and top-notch instructor. So I love training. I'm always looking to learn. And I said before, I may not have to like somebody to train with them. I'll train with anybody. And this was going to be a really cool experience for me to train with someone that I go in there with preconceived notions of who or what they are, but you have to go in there with an open mind as well. Really just try to take them as a trainer and not as a personality on YouTube or social media or whatever that is. So I really went into it with an open mind to say that I really wanted to enjoy the training aspect. So I rolled into Camden, got there, 5:30 or so on a Friday night. Classes started at 0800 on Saturday morning. And I was staying at a place called Racks and Rucks, and it's basically an off-site team room started by an alumni of Tactical Response, and it's a really cool place. And I'll have a video that's coming out in the next week of the entire experience. Now, there were things that I couldn't film, but I did film the team room, and I did film some of the drills. Now, understand that I went there not as a social media content creator with Ghost Tactical. I went there as Trey Miller, trying to train. And yes, I did get some footage, and obviously that will be in the review as well. but I went there as someone who's looking to train because I want to bring the aspect to the people of someone who is not there for content and not there as a media personality. I wanted to go there as someone who loves to train and always looking to get better and perfect my skills. So you'll see my reviews on different classes and different instructors that I take throughout the next year is not as a social media personality, but as someone who is been training for a long time, has a lot of experience in training, and always looking to expand my knowledge. So I get there at 5:30, and there's a code to get into the door. I get in there, and I'm the first one there, not a big deal, which is kind of why I wanted to get there relatively early, because they have bunk beds, and I wanted to make sure that I got bottom bunk. And I know that sounds funny, but I'm not the biggest fan of heights. But I also don't really want to be climbing up on top of a bunk bed after a long day of training and all that. So I wanted a bottom bunk. So I got there early and made sure that I got my bottom bunk and all that. So everything was good. Walked in, and it's a really nice place. They've got a pool table, a ping pong table, several leather couches, big screen TV, a refrigerator, microwave, all that stuff. And there's 2 bunk rooms, and each room has 5 bunk beds on it, so it sleeps 10 people in each room. So there's a total of 20 people that could sleep in this place, and I think we had 7 or 8, and so it was really a fun time to hang out with people from all over the country. Had a couple of guys from Texas, a guy from Chicago, a guy from Pennsylvania, a guy from Washington, D.C., and so it was really kind of cool to hear their experiences as not only why they're into the firearms community, but why they're there training and what their experiences are in training. And it was really cool. There was a young man from Chicago there that bought his very first gun in June. Has gone to the range and shot a little bit, but never really had an instruction. So he was there, and that was an awesome experience to see him grow and kind of understand what it means to be someone who has responsibility and takes that responsibility of carrying every day. So it was really cool to see all of that. We had 41 people attend the class altogether, which is a really cool number to have. You had them from all shapes, sizes, ages, experience levels, genders. We had a female there. It was just a really great time. So I get there at 5:30 or so, and I'm the only one there. So I go in there, make my bed, unpack and everything. And, it's 5:45, almost 6 o'clock now, and still no one's there. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm just that early, So let's go to Walmart and let's go get some bread and some goober, some more water. I brought a case of water, but just in case I got a little bit more to share with other people. But so I go to Walmart and I get all that stuff done, and I come back and there's still nobody there. So I'm thinking, am I missing something? Is there something going on that I'm missing with the class? So I call a buddy of mine who had been through the class before, and I said, hey, man, nobody's here. I went by tactical response, and there's nobody there either. Am I missing something? Are they having a briefing somewhere, or what's going on? He said, no, a lot of people don't show up till later. They're either driving in or flying in, and a lot of people just show up that morning and then blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just hang out. And so I hung out there. There were a couple of videos and stuff that we were supposed to watch before the training started. So I sat there on the couch at Racks and Rucks and got my phone out and started watching some of the videos and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, 2 guys show up, and it's Rob from Pennsylvania and Junior from Washington, D.C. So they come in and they go take their stuff into one of the rooms and decided to stay in the same room that I was. And we start hanging out and talking and stayed up till almost midnight that night, just kind of bullshitting and talking and having a good time and talking about our lives and our experiences and all that stuff. So it was a great time. So we wake up the next morning. We had to be at Tactical Response at 0800. I got there about 7:15, make sure it got signed in and kind of make sure that I knew where I was going and this, that, and the other. So I get there at 7:15, and there's a few of us there, and we're just kind of hanging out with James, and he's there to greet us all, and just kind of hung out for half an hour, 45 minutes before the class started. And when the class started, typically what they do is on Saturday do a safety briefing, and then you head out to the range and you shoot for a little bit, and you come back after lunch, do some classwork stuff and all of that. And then Sunday you do some shooting, obviously, and then another classroom session and all that. But with the rainstorm that was in there, and it wasn't necessarily the rain, it was the lightning. He was worried about us being at the range with lightning, which is a good thing because when we went out there that afternoon, there had been 2 lightning strikes on the range, so it was probably a good call that we stayed in. So we basically changed the format of the weekend because of the weather, and we did all the classroom stuff on Saturday morning. And I will tell you this, guys, I don't want to go too far in depth into what everything was talked about because I think that I wouldn't do it justice. And I think that if you really want to hear it, you need to go to Fighting Pistol because the lecture about the mental side and the mentality of being a warrior and carrying every day and the responsibilities that we have was truly amazing. It was eye-opening. I think every single person there had at least one moment that kind of hit them hard. I had several of them. Those moments don't come very often for me. I'm usually not surprised, and I'm usually not taken back by a thought process or an idea. I'm a thinker myself, so I'm always trying to do that stuff, and it hit me pretty hard. There were several moments in that lecture that hit me pretty hard, and it was a wonderful lecture. If you guys get a chance to, please go try to listen to him talk. So after that was over, we had a break for lunch, and then we met out at the range, and we spent from probably about 12 o'clock till 4:30 shooting. And for me, and I think others out there will tell you the same thing, the drills that we worked on and the mechanics that we worked on Saturday were very basic. If you're new to firearms, it's going to be great. If you're experienced in firearms, you're going to sit there and say, man, this is boring. But here's the thing. It wasn't boring at all. Everything that he and his instructors do, they do it for a reason. And you might be an operator, you might be, former military, former law enforcement, you might have all the experience in the world in the fundamental handling of your firearms, but you can always learn different techniques. And I learned some different techniques that I will take with me forever, but it was also one of those that it made me realize that no matter how good you think you are or how experienced you think you are, you always need to continuously practice the fundamentals of gun handling. And we're not talking pulling triggers here. We're talking the handling of your firearm. Yes, part of firearm handling is pulling the trigger, and they worked on different techniques that could help you become more proficient with your trigger pulls. But the handling of the gun itself was really fun, and to go back and do a refresher on me, because I reminded myself that I really hadn't practiced all this stuff in over a year, probably closer to 2 years. No matter how good you think you are, and I'm not great, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm an expert marksman, but I think that I've been doing this a while and I'm pretty good, but even I don't go back and work on the fundamentals as often as I should. So that was a really good eye-opener for me to just remind myself, guys, you got to get out there and practice, but when you're practicing, start with some of the basics sometimes. The draw, the grip, your breathing, shooting from reset, all that stuff. You have to always remind yourself where your muzzle is pointed and all of that. Be aware. We all know the safety rules, but just the handling of the gun needs just as much as practice as pulling the trigger. So always keep that in mind, and it was nice to be reminded of that by Tactical Response. So we went through some drills Saturday afternoon, and it was fun. Like I said, it was basic, fundamental stuff, but it was stuff that there were people in the class that were new to firearms, that were very inexperienced, that needed some of this. And basically what it was is to kind of make sure that everybody's relatively the same level playing field with handling the gun, how they want you to handle it, not how you handle it, how they want you to handle the gun for the rest of the time. And so it was a great afternoon, got to shoot a bunch of rounds. And then when they say bring 1,000 rounds and you're going to shoot most of them, they're not lying. You're going to shoot most of them over the 2 days. I took 1,000 rounds, and I tell you what, I didn't come back with near as many as I thought that I was going to come back with. So I'm glad I took a full 1,000 rounds. So we got back. We were cold. We were wet. I mean, it was nasty. We were in 3 inches of mud the whole day. The range has got some dirt and all that. So we were standing in mud and puddles and all that. It was cold. But it was great training. I love training that stuff because if you can train and be proficient with your skills in the worst of conditions, then when it's sunny and 75, you're going to be good to go. I'll go into a couple things we worked on, and I had heard about it. I had never done it and I had never seen it. But we've all heard of the 180-degree scan. Tactical Response and James Jaeger, they practice and preach a 360-degree scan. So they taught us, when you get done, instead of just scanning left and right, they want you turning your body around and scanning the entire 360 degrees. And I thought it was kind of weird at first. I was like, but I understand what they're saying is the mentality is if you happen to be in a gunfight, chances are you're not just going to be around one person. Most criminals work together in a group of at least 2 or 3 people. So if you've engaged on target 1, you've eliminated that threat, there's probably someone else out there. And it might not be to your left or right. They could be charging you from behind with a knife or whatever. So you're turning around, scanning. You're also making sure that people around may be safe. They're trying to get to a safe place. You're looking for them because they're not looking for enemies. They're not looking for threats. So you're basically being the shepherd of all the innocent bystanders, and you're making sure that they're safe and no one's attacking them. One of the other things that you probably have heard about if you follow kind of James and you understand in the history and some of the stories about tactical response and the fighting pistol class is you have to, drop your gun. And a lot of people are very hesitant of dropping their guns. They're worried about scratching it. They're worrying about this, that, and the other, which I don't give a damn about scratching a gun. It's there. It's a tool. It's something that's going to help me survive. I want to know that it can withstand a drop. But I think that most people that have never dropped their guns are a little apprehensive because they're worried about it going off. And I think that that's one of the reasons why he does this, is he wants to prove that these manufacturers have built in safety measures to make sure that their guns are safe, whether they're dropped or whatever. Most guns are extremely safe. But the whole aspect of dropping with them was not just to prove to you that you can drop your gun and it's not going to go off. There's a whole other aspect to it, is by the time the police arrive to a scene that there has been a shooting, the shooting's probably already done, or at least it's mostly done by the time the police show up. That's just a reality. That's why we're here. That's why we carry, because we're defending people that can't be defended by the police. So let's say the police show up and you're engaged in a firefight and it's either over or almost over. The police show up, even though they might have been given a description by someone who's called 911 about what's going on, they are still unsure as to who the good guy is and the bad guy is. So they're going to get out of their cars, they're going to take cover themselves, and they're probably going to yell out something like, freeze, drop your gun, don't move, drop your gun. So whatever position you are in, especially if you are engaged with that target and you're pointing that gun down range, the last thing you want to do is be shot by a police officer because you don't follow directions. So the whole purpose of this exercise was to, wherever position you are, you drop the gun. Don't turn to face them. Don't do anything. You drop your gun and you put your hands up. Live to fight another day. And this is the drill. I drop my gun. Remember, there's 2 to 3 inches of mud we're standing in, so fantastic. So I drop my gun. Everyone drops their gun, obviously, but I drop my gun and it just splats in the mud, and you're like, oh, that's awesome, I know I'm cleaning my gun tonight, but holy cow, now I've got to really clean my gun tonight. And so one of the instructors, whose name is Jay, and he's a former Marine, good guy, great instructor, but he comes over and just kind of smiles at me and kind of winks and just kind of has a little shit grin in his face, and he just decides to step on my gun and just to completely just cover it with mud. It's nasty. So we're doing this drill, and for the first time ever, basically, aside from just having bad ammo, but the first time ever, the Glock 19 did not run beautifully well. And I'm not saying that it had issues. It had issues maybe a couple different rounds when some mud finally got in the chamber, got in the mag well, got into the magazine itself. When you're talking 3 inches of rain, you're going to get mud inside that gun. So all you got to do is go there and clean it up real quick. Not a problem. So we get done with Saturday, and it was a great day of training. Like I said, we had some just basic fundamental skills and all that, and kind of got everybody into the frame of mind of what we're going to be doing on Sunday. So that night we all went back. Like I said, we're cold, we're wet, we're taking a shower. relaxing for a little bit, and James said we're going to meet whoever wants to meet over at the Mexican restaurant. We all met over there at 6 o'clock, and of the 40 people there, I'd say that there was at least, I don't know, a good 25 to 30 of us met over there and hung out together. And once again, you're talking about a group of people that you're just getting to know, and we had some really cool people from all sorts of walks of life. Got to really meet some awesome people that are now part of my family and will be friends and all of that for life. So I enjoyed that. We hung out there for about an hour and a half, ate some really good food and had some really good discussions. And then we decided to head back to Racks and Rucks. We had some homework we had to get done. We had to read about 20 to 25 pages in our handbook to prepare for the next day. Had to do about 15 to 20 minutes of dry firing. And inside Racks and Rucks, there's a room that they provide all the cleaning supplies that you can clean your guns with. And there's also a brick wall with some sandbags that they want you to do all your dry firing in. So they have a room dedicated for all that stuff. It was really cool. So you're really not bothering anybody else who might be watching TV or having discussions or talking or reading or sleeping while you're doing your dry fire. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we went back, did our homework, did our dry fire, and I went live that night. Kind of did a little video tour of Racks and Rucks. So if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, go ahead and check that out and all that. I want to give a shout out to Steven. And Steven's the guy who owns Racks and Rucks. And Steven, you've done a great job with it, and I really enjoyed my stay. So thank you for allowing us to have a place to kind of call home for a couple days. So after all of that's done, I've called some buddies, kind of checked in, talked to the family, all that stuff. It's time to go to bed. Now, I snore. I understand that. And I would think that most people snore to some extent, whether they want to admit it or not. But when you've got a room full of a lot of people and you have different snores, some people are light snores, some people are, I'll just say that it is a symphony of sound. And it's not always a great symphony. Needless to say, it was difficult for me to get to sleep. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, I finally got my pillow, my blanket, went out to the main room and just slept on a couch and tried to get a few hours sleep because we had to be out there at 8. We started shooting at 8, so I wanted to be out there by 7 to make sure that everything was there. The range is about 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from Racks and Rucks, so I wanted to make sure I got out there, which means I had to wake up at 6. So I didn't go to bed till 2, so I had 4 hours sleep, and it is what it is. I'm not used to getting a lot of sleep anyway, so I'm really not that bothered by it, but it was just interesting. So we get out there Sunday, and it's colder Sunday than it was on Saturday. It's sunny, but it's still cold, and yes, there was still mud. It had not dried up, obviously, overnight. So we're like, okay, this is going to be fun, because I had heard that Sunday is where we get to do a lot of the rolling around and the actual fighting pistol kind of stuff. So I was looking forward to that, and we did. We shot from 8 o'clock in the morning till about 4:30 in the afternoon, and it was amazing. Sunday was, for me, once again, we're still talking relatively basic stuff, but at least this time for me, we are moving around, we're rolling around the ground, we're shooting from different positions. It was a really, really good time, and I'll tell you this, the instruction you get is world class. I'm not going to sit out there and say that they're the best in the world or the best in the country or whatever, but what I will tell you is this: if there's someone better, I got to find them, because this was as good a training as you're going to get. And I really enjoyed it. So all day Sunday, we did different drills. We were shooting from behind cover. We were shooting from the kneeling, from laying down. We were one-handed, strong hand only, weak hand only. We were having to work on malfunctions and changing magazines with one hand only, assimilating that you might have gotten shot or broken your arm or whatever, and you can't use your other hand. And if you don't practice that stuff, you realize very quickly that your skill set is not as good as you thought it was. Man, it was really a good time. We had a final test that was really kind of interesting. And then we just kind of hung out and took some pictures and all that and said goodbye to everybody. Everyone took off and went their separate ways back home. Luckily, I only had, a 4-hour drive or whatever. Some people had 12-hour drives and had to be worked the next day. So you can imagine how tired they probably were, because over the 48 hours, both mentally and physically, you're running as fast as you can. And so you get tired. And I was really geeked up and juiced on the way home. So I was talking to a buddy of mine on the phone, or a couple different buddies of mine on the phone, and that kind of helped me settle down and kind of debrief myself and kind of take in what I had learned. And that 4-hour drive really went by quickly because I was, just amped up. The adrenaline was running and all of that. So it was a great weekend. I really enjoyed myself, and James was very accommodating to me and to everybody, actually. Spent a lot of time just talking privately, and he would come by and talk to a bunch of guys, a group of guys, and just ask, constantly, you got any questions? His instructors were always, you have any questions, guys? Now's the time. Let's not move on. If you have a question, don't have that ego that says you know it all. This is where you have to ask questions. So at the end, we have our certificates being passed out, and when my name was called, James kind of pulls me in front of the rest of the crowd. Now remember, I was not there as Ghost Tactical. I was not there as a social media person. I was there to train. And yes, I am going to get some content, but I was there to train. So very few people there knew who I was. I didn't tell them that I was a YouTuber and had this channel or did all this stuff. They didn't look at me as his personality. They just knew me as Trey, which is awesome. I was there all weekend training. So at the end, getting my certificate, James pulls me in front of everybody and basically tells everybody that I'm on YouTube and he was on my show and I didn't like him. And so I told the story, and so he kind of asked me and called me out in front of everybody. He says, now what do you think? And I basically told him, I said, look, there are still things that you have said and done in the past that I may not agree with. And I don't have to like you as a personality on YouTube, but I will train with your ass anytime, anywhere. And I truly meant that. If you're able to separate the personality that might be a character with him that, kind of create controversy, which I think he enjoys doing that. And then the instructor side, the trainer side of him, if you're able to separate those two, you're going to be a huge fan of James Jaeger as an instructor and all of that. And I will tell you this, you can kind of tell someone really quickly how they are as a trainer, whether or not they're passionate, whether they're bored, whether they're excited. And there is not a second that James or any of his instructor staff aren't as purely passionate about training and teaching as anyone I've ever met. Like I said, their passion, their enthusiasm, their willingness to just teach and teach and teach and make sure that when you leave there, you've gotten better is as refreshing as anything I've ever witnessed in training. They're truly remarkable. They're truly the best I've been to. And I would go back in a heartbeat. And James has invited me to come back for different classes, and I will most definitely be going back to tactical response. I enjoyed my time. If you have a chance and you are willing to go and take the training, regardless of what you think of James Jaeger, if you have a chance, the opportunity, and are willing to go, please put this at the top of your list. Take fighting pistol. He offers a lot of classes, but fighting pistol is a great one. The mindset lecture in itself is worth the money of the class. The range stuff is awesome. You're going to learn an enormous amount of stuff out there on the range, but the mindset lecture and the legality lecture are worth the price of admission in and of itself. So guys, I really hope that you've enjoyed maybe the kind of the debriefing and the recap of tactical response. This is the first mission of Operation Training Day, and we are going to be going to train with trainers all over the country. We've got some responses already from people like Rob Pincus, and there's a company down called Shoot and Move down in Florida, and obviously we're going to go back to tactical response. We're looking to go train with Clint Smith at Thunder Ranch and Masad Ayub, Travis Haley, Tim Kennedy, Instructor Zero, all of these guys that you've heard of. We're looking to go out there to train with the best and bring those classes to you that if you're looking to train or you're interested or you're on the fence about whether you want to train or not, or you don't know if it's worth it, hopefully in the next 12 months you're going to start seeing some things out there that might help you with that decision. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. We will see you after the Christmas holiday. We'll try to get one in after Christmas. We're going to be real busy before then. So the next episode will be the Sunday after Christmas. I hope that everybody has a wonderful Christmas holiday. Please stay safe. Enjoy your family, love your family, get out there and train often, train safely, and be more proficient with your firearms. I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you soon. Semper Fi. Thanks for listening to the Armed Citizen Podcast. To check out our full lineup of pro gun media content, including our product reviews, live shows, and other Second Amendment activity, please check out our website, www.ghosttacticalproductions.com.